welcome back. I missed you while you were gone. I hope that all of you missed us as well. Welcome to the third session of the Social Studies Innovation Network Conference. Those of you who are just joining, we have a session 3A and 3B. And if you're looking for the Kid Citizen session, you need to click on the link in the chat for Zoom Room B. And if you're here for Teaching with Technology, stay here. Just a reminder to all that if you want professional development certificates, you need to make sure to participate at least twice in the chat so we can verify your attendance, and then email us afterwards, either eosborn@iu.edu or bono@iu.edu. Don't listen to the closed captioning. There's no E on the end of my last name. That's why I told you bono@iu.edu. She has the easiest email ever. So welcome. I am actually the presenter for this session, which is kind of strange. So I think Anne's going to take down the PowerPoint here and you can see me. I am joined by several colleagues. Matt Madera and Andrew Nelson are from Half Full Nelson, which are the developers of Engaging Congress. And also Anne is Bono, you've already met because she's also a member of our team, but also Jen Jolley is on the session. Some of you have seen her active in the chat. She wasn't sure if she was going to be available today. So we actually pre-recorded her part of this presentation. She's one of the many classroom teachers across the country who are using Engaging Congress, and she happens to be one of the members of our teacher network and is available to help us do presentations like this. So I am going to share my screen. So again, here now I have the ability to demonstrate that, I'm not as competent, that I have the same problems that everyone else has whenever we are doing what we've been doing. And I'm going to go to the Engaging Congress website. So I've got that pulled up here. So Engaging Congress is a free civics interactive that was developed by the center with a grant from the Library of Congress and then additional funding from Library of Congress. We launched in 2017 at the National Council for Social Studies Conference. And for those of you who have stuck with us this whole time, we really appreciate it. Now, remember that I actually did try to be a high-tech person here. I have the chat open on my phone, but it's hard for me, like Maria was talking about doing the chat, but my colleagues, Andrew and Matt and Jen, will also be monitoring the chat and trying to answer questions. So Engaging Congress is primarily targeted at students in grades 8 through 12, but we have a lot of teachers in 4th and 5th grade who've told us that they adapt it for their students. And also we have it scaled, it's very scalable for students and teachers at all levels. So you have the ability to use it with your AP kids as well as with the kids in, I always hate what is the word that we're supposed to use nowadays, the non-tracked kids, the regular sessions, the non-honors, whatever. We've really tried to make it accessible and usable for all students. And as a matter of fact, on that topic, I'll say that later this summer at the AFT Teach Conference and then this fall at the NCSS Conference in Minnesota, we're actually going to be doing a session with a disability specialist who's going to talk about ways to use not only Engaging Congress, but other interactives and make them scalable for all students. So I just have a few minutes to kind of introduce ourselves in the center. I've already told you that the center was founded by Lee Hamilton and that our mission is really to develop engaged and informed citizens with the emphasis on both. And you can see if you were here in the last session why I'm such a fan of Project Citizen, because that's really that action model that once students understand how our government works and understand their role in it, then we want to teach them to take action. And that's one of the fundamental principles of Engaging Congress, is not only teaching the content, but also making the content relevant to their lives. So it's divided into, I forgot that I actually have my screen so that I can pull it down for you. This is the website, and it's actually divided into 6 different content modules, and you can kind of see the short videos here. And each of the content modules, which talk about states' rights, separation of power, voting rights, the federal budget, are primary source-based because part of the goal as well, in a way that you can use it for non-content and just for skill building, is we have primary source analysis as the focus of every unit. So each unit has this short content video that introduces it, but then it also has these 6 primary sources. And the primary sources are one of the real places that you can scale the content, because we have things from photographs, which are pretty basic analysis, to political cartoons, to court cases, to documents from government, to charts and graphs. So you're able to pick the content that fits best with your students at that time. And if you're just working on your analysis skills, then you are able to just answer the questions in the initial analysis, because the initial analysis is all built on what the students are seeing in front of them. They don't need any prior content knowledge. That's a way that you can use it as an introduction. You can use it as a content check. You can use it in lots of different ways. And the primary sources start from the founding era and go to the present, because one of our overall messages is, if they do the entire module, is they understand learn what is the content of this principle, but then they also see it demonstrated throughout the scope of American history, and also through to the present, with the idea that this is part of their obligation as citizens, is that these aren't settled issues, that these issues are ongoing, and their generation is going to be answering these questions just as much as the past ones are. And that's really one of our big goals, is to have them understand their role to help continue to think about and answer these questions for every citizen. So the other thing that makes it another feature of it is that you can use any part individually. So for example, if you just are teaching seniors in government class and they're supposed to know the 3 branches of government, you could just show the laws and sausage 1.5 minute video and have a quick review of separation of powers. You could give them the knowledge check questions just as a kind of pretest to see where they are. You can use the trivia challenge as another way. If you just want to use one of the primary sources, because you only have time, in today's topic, on voting rights, to do one, you just pick one and use it. If you just want to use the games, you can use them. So each of the components of each of the modules is totally able to be used individually. And one of the last things I want to say before I start our kind of pre-recorded portion of Jen's is also that, like all of the products you're seeing today, this is free. All of the interactives that we have, which include a fantastic one called Freedom Summer that I hope that you look up as well, that looks at the Mississippi Summer and the voter registration project in 1964, is that they're available across multiple platforms. So today we're looking, and I'm showing you the website, whereas if you were going to play on the web, you would click on this link and you would be taken into Engaging Congress. But if your students have other devices, they can play through the App Store. And one of the benefits is, if your students do have devices, is that they can download it onto their device and then they can play at home, and they will not need to have any data or any internet. So that allows quite a bit of flexibility. As well, if all you have is your single teacher computer and you're projecting, you'll be able to play as a group through the screen. So we tried to make it as accessible as possible. And you can see one of our new projects that I'd like to draw attention to is we are getting ready to add a new category up here at the top, and it's going to be called State Standards Correlation. We already have in our teacher toolbox, we have big correlations, for example, to the C3 framework and some basic Common Core historical inquiry skills. But we are going to add one here that is for state standards. So what we're doing is we are recruiting teachers from around the country who will help us correlate Engaging Congress with their state standards. We'd like to make sure we do them with at least 8th grade U.S. history, 5th grade U.S. history, if that's appropriate in your area, and then your high school civics, government, or U.S. history classes. And we do have some funding from the Library of Congress to pay you for your time. Again, as we were talking about before, that this is money from the government, so there isn't a lot of money, but we do have some money to recognize the time that you put into it. So if you have some time this summer, probably won't take you that much. We would love for you to email us, and I'll have Ann put my email in the chat, or Jen or somebody, eosborn@iu.edu, and please reach out to us and we can talk. We have a document that has all of the primary sources, the links to all the primary sources and which unit they're in that you can use as your starting point. So that's one of our big projects for this summer. So I hope that some of you out there might be willing to help us with this. So now the bulk of our presentation is really a teacher demo. So we wanted to have a teacher, obviously not in school on Saturday, so we couldn't have a live classroom. And so what Jen did is she pre-recorded a session with her students. And so she and I can both be in the chat. And as you're watching the next 15 minutes or so of video, please interact with us in the chat, asking questions. And Jen, you can also reach out to me through the chat. And if you want me to pause it at some point, so you want to come on camera and talk live, that would be great as well. So what I'm going to do now is, so I did remember to check my box, and I want to give you a heads up. We found out that when I started this video, the beginning is really loud. So I will, as quickly as possible, turn down the video, the sound on this opening video a little bit. So it's going to start with a video that we put together just talking about engaging Congress, and then it'll jump into Jen actually filming a live session in her class. Okay, so wish me luck. Here we go.
The ability to effectively employ distance learning tools has never been more critical than now. And that's where we come in. The Indiana University Center on Representative Government developed Engaging Congress as a free, interactive edutainment tool that uses primary source documents, photographs, maps, and political cartoons to explore the challenges faced by representative democracy in the U.S. today.
Jennifer Jolley, and I am a government teacher at Palm Bay Magnet High School in Melbourne, Florida. I enthusiastically recommend Engaging Congress for your students to learn about history, government, and economics through the lens of analyzing primary sources. These primary resources are rich and are really thought-provoking. The kids really like the game aspect of it because it provides an opportunity for them to learn about the stories behind voting rights, federalism in modern times, and even gerrymandering. I should also mention that last spring, when we were all in quarantine and my students were able to work remotely, we were able to use Engaging Congress as a platform of learning. I would assign Engaging Congress to my students and tell them what story to play, and then I simply had them write a paragraph about what they had learned. It is wonderful. My students love it, and teachers, I think you will too. Check it out. Hello, my name is Jennifer Jolley, and I teach at Palm Bay Magnet High School in Melbourne, Florida. I teach U.S. Government and AP Government and AP Comparative Government. I'm happy you're with us today, and today I'm going to walk you through how I use Engaging Congress in my classroom. All right, so now I'm going to have you guys look at the middle of the screen with me. Now notice it says, where can I find Engaging Congress? Everybody see this part? Yes? All right, now I need for you to notice that there's a couple of different choices. I want you to select the one that says WebGL Play on the Web. Now when you click on that, it's actually going to bring you to a separate website, which is going to boot up the game. Now, this game does not require a sign-in, but it does take a moment or two for it to boot up. So make sure that you're using the browser such as Google Chrome, which would be a good browser to use. So this is a free game, so we're not paying for this. All right, now once you get to the play button, and once this pops up on your screen, you're going to hit the play button. And then I'm going to show you guys a couple of things from here. Okay. So a couple of things from here. You'll notice that there's a start menu.
Okay, there's also a little question menu. So when you click on that, it's going to actually tell you what to do. And then we're going to do one of these together so that you understand how to do this on your own. But you will click choose a story to view a story selection menu. And each story has multiple primary source documents and mini games. You'll click on the primary source gallery to view all of the documents used in the stories. You'll click on the trivia challenge to test your knowledge as you race against the clock for a top score. And then also click on the trivia practice to test your story knowledge about timers or scores. Okay, so I'm going to click out of this. Now again, this is how to play the game. So if I click on this
Engaging Congress. It's a game that uses primary source documents, photographs, maps, political cartoons, and other items to explore the challenges faced by representative democracy in the U.S. today. Engaging Congress includes 5 thematic stories. More equal than others, influencing the political process. Laws and sausages, the separation of powers. Vote early, vote often, voting rights. A balancing act, the federal budget. And fair is not always equal, federalism and states' rights. Playing is easy. First, choose a story from the story menu. Each story begins with a short video that provides important background information about the story. Next, you'll see the primary sources menu. Once you select a source, just follow the prompts on the screen. Match keywords or image details to each resource by dragging the thumbnails onto the resource. Correct placement of the thumbnails launches a series of multiple choice questions. After you answer the questions, Dig Deeper will provide further background and context for each resource. The app features a primary source gallery with links to the Library of Congress and other online digital collections. You can assess what you've learned with the redistricting challenge and other mini-games, the knowledge check questions, and finally, rack up your score playing the trivia challenge. The Engaging Congress website has many supporting resources, including the Teacher Toolbox, featuring learning objectives, activities correlated to government.
I'm going to click out of this video. Now I want everybody to go to where it says choose a story. Can I have everybody click on that for me, please? Now, originally, there was only 5 stories, but they have added 2 in the last year. One of them, the 2 that are new are the executive branch and the judicial system. Today, we're going to be playing the story that's called More Equal Than Others. So you can notice that that's written up on my board, and that's also part of the, it's on the stream of Google Classroom. So students, I would like for you to click on More Equal Than Others. And then this is another quick little video, only like a minute, 2 minutes long.
One person, one vote. That's how our democracy works, right? Every American gets an equal voice when it comes to Election Day. Sounds simple. But there are important struggles going on today about what the Constitution really means when it comes to equal representation. Welcome to Constitution Fight Club, Round 1.
Over your nose.
Today, when we count state populations to determine the number of representatives that get sent to Congress, all the citizens get counted. But some people argue that the Constitution meant only eligible voters should be counted. That would make a big change in the number of representatives and would change the balance of power in Congress. Fight Club, Round 2. We elect our representatives to Congress by districts. Parties in power can redraw district lines to give their candidate an advantage. It's legal, but some people argue that this means your vote can get robbed of its true voice as intended by the Constitution. Fight Club, Round 3. No equal representation issue has created more fights than big money in politics. The Supreme Court's decision on Citizens United green-lighted unlimited campaign donations via super PACs. Proponents say that money is a free speech issue, while opponents argue that it gives too much influence to the rich and powerful. One person, one vote. That's our democracy. But what happens if some votes are more equal than others?
Now, on your own, you probably will have to watch that quick video to get to this first, part here. Now, I just want to point out to you that there are 6 different primary sources that you do need to complete before you snap a screenshot of this screen. Okay, now this is the important part that I need everybody to make sure you're paying attention to. Now, I'm just going to flip very quickly to the assignment. So topic 4, gerrymandering, engaging Congress is the topic. So you're going to play on the web as we just, went through, and you're going to write 1 paragraph of what you've learned. Now, you need to make sure that you take a screenshot of the final game screen, which shows the stars, demonstrating that you have answered all 6 primary sources in the story. Play the gerrymandering game, and it's actually called the redistricting game, rather. The redistricting game and the knowledge check questions too, after you have finished this part. Okay, so you're going to write a paragraph of what you've learned, and you're going to take a screenshot of the final star screen. Oops. All right, so this is the screen. Now, yesterday I played some of this on my own, and I purposely got one wrong to show you what it looks like. Okay, so there's 3 answer choices. And so I purposely answered one wrong, but then on the second try, I got the answer right. So you can see I got a half star there, okay? So if you were to miss all the questions, you would have a black star. Now, gold star means you got the answer right when you first answered it. Now, obviously, the game aspect is to answer all of the 3 questions correctly and get a gold star for all. Now, you could also replay. So after you go through and you're like, ooh, I didn't get that right, you can go back and replay and then earn more stars, okay? But this is the page that you need to take a picture of or a screenshot to prove that you have played the game. All right, so is everybody clear on this? Remember, the story that you're playing is called More Equal Than Others, right? All right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to have you guys, we're going to go to the Electoral College map. I want you guys to start there, and we're going to do this one together, okay? Everybody ready? Electoral College, and you'll have to do the gerrymandering and the firefighter poster, because remember, we did those yesterday. We looked at the firefighter poster yesterday in the collaboration board, and we also looked at the gerrymander political cartoons. So you're kind of ready for those. So we're just going to look at the Electoral College map primary source today together, and then we'll answer them together, and then you'll understand how this works. Okay, so go ahead and click on that. And by the way, it says, how do we create a system in which every citizen's vote has equal weight? All right, so now notice there's a little forward button down at the bottom. So you'll need to click on that forward button, and if you can't see it, you'll just have to scroll down a little bit, okay? All right, so notice it says observe the image, pinch and zoom to get a closer look, right? Now students, since you're using touchscreen tablets as well, you can actually move it with your finger if you wish, or you can move it with your mouse. I'll need to move it with my mouse since my display is not touchscreen, okay? All right, now this is a little bit harder to see, but do you notice that there's some like missing places here? Do you notice there's like a box here? It's hard to see this one, but there's like, well, there's definitely a box here. There's definitely a box down here. And then there's a box over here, which is really difficult to see. Okay, so let's move this top one. Is everybody on the same story with me? Is everybody there? Or do I need to wait for anybody? No? Everybody's okay? All right. How about at home? You guys all set? All right, I'm gonna basically click on this box here. I'm going to move it into the image, and then I'll drop it. And then I have a question that comes up. What does the number in each state represent? Is it the order in which a state was admitted into the Union, the number of counties in each state, or the number of electoral votes for each state? Which one is it, guys? It's the last one. So everybody click on the last one, okay? I'm just going to let this student in. So when you get it correct, it's going to tell you, yay, you got it correct. All right, so it does a little celebration for you. All right, so now I'm going to hit the next button. And now you can see I have a little check mark up here where this box was. Now let's move in California, everybody. Let's go ahead and move California into the picture. The number in the box represents the number of vineyards in California, the number of senators from California, the number of votes California has in the Electoral College. Which is it, guys? Senators? It's the last one. That's right, Jamari. That's right. Because remember, every state has two senators, correct? So it's a little tricky, right? A little trick question here. So the answer is the Electoral College. So let's go ahead and click on that. Good. Now, notice we go to the next button, and then we have our last one. Now, notice we could have figured this out by looking at the content of the primary source in front of us, right? By just looking at this map, I think we could have figured out most of these questions. So let's just look at our last one, and let's see if we can do this one now together. The number 3 in this box represents, is it the number of representatives and senators Alaska has in Congress? Is it the number of US presidents from the state of Alaska? Is it the number of representatives Alaska has in Congress? It's the first one, yes. Because what's the minimum number of every House of Representative? 1. Good job, good job. And remember when we looked at the apportionment map, there were some states with only 1, right? They only had 1 House of Representative. But remember, all states have 2 senators. So click on that. Yay! Excellent. And so we can also read this little note here that says, this is the same number as their votes in the Electoral College. 3 is the minimum electoral votes per state. Okay, so every state must have at least 3 electoral votes. All right, so notice, students, you have a score here. And if you were to play this multiple times, because I'm just going to scroll this down a little bit here, it says you can actually replay this. So if you don't like your score, then you can try again, and then your high score will be what is counted on your final star screen. Now, before you move on, I want you to go ahead and read this dig deeper part. It says, the framers created the Electoral College as part of a system of checks and balances. It gave the final choice to the electors, who the framers felt were better qualified than the people to assess candidates' qualifications. The state's representation in the House is determined by the census every 10 years. Thus, their number of electors can go up or down. So students, after you've read that, then hit the continue button. See the little continue button down at the bottom. And now notice that on my screen, I have answered 3 out of the 6 primary sources. So now you guys can play whichever one you want to. And if you have any questions, I'm here to help you. But I'm going to have you guys do this on your own, okay? Do you want me to do one more with you, or do you guys feel pretty confident you know how to play this now? You feel pretty confident? Yeah? Okay. Now, it will remember where you guys are. So when you use the same computer, it should remember.
I'm going to go ahead and stop there because we only have another minute or two. I feel like in some ways pre-recording it helped us manage our time better because Jen was actually able to go through a whole lesson. And sometimes when we're doing it live as teachers, especially me, I get sidetracked and go off on tangent and stuff, but it was really good. We did a pretty good job of answering your questions in the chat as we were going along. I hope that you'll see that there are many different ways that you can use Engaging Congress in your classroom. One of the things that I mentioned in the chat is that we do have on the website, and I just flipped back to it, that I'm hoping that you're seeing it, is that I want to go back to the home of Engaging Congress here, is that we do have a link to all of the primary source documents. So if you, and here also are the classroom giveaways that I mentioned in the thing. We didn't send any giveaways out this year since we weren't in our office for the entire year, but we are planning to be back in August, and we'll be able to do that. So here is the place where you can link to all of the different primary sources. And the last thing that I will show you before we sign off is that depending on what you teach, we also have a way for you to sort all the different primary sources by era. So if you teach US history and you want to find where are the primary sources on the founding era, where are Reconstruction, where are the progressive era, you can do it that way, as opposed to the way the units are set up, which is by this thematic approach, taking from the present, from the founding era all the way to the present. So I hope that you have learned something new and have a great new tool that you can add to your toolbox. And thanks again to Jen for pre-recording this for us and for answering questions in the chat.